Okay, I'm now with the Managing Director of Cranswick Wines. It's Graham. Graham, how are you?
I'm very well, thank you, Paul. How are you?
I'm very well, and I'm enjoying your wine. It's very nice.
Good. I'm glad you do, because, you know, wine is one of the few things in life that is actually pleasurable and is actually doing you some good at the same time. So you can feel good about getting healthy with your glass of wine of an evening.
It's good for my health.
It's good for everybody's health. In fact, 2 glasses of wine is probably even better.
Really?
Yeah.
Now, this white, does that still apply with white?
It does apply to white. Everybody thinks that only red wine is healthy, but in fact white wine has almost as much antioxidant benefit as red. And when we're talking about the health benefits of wine, the major benefit probably is the antioxidant quality. And if you have 2 glasses of wine a day with food, you'll find that what the wine does, it breaks down the oxidizing elements that are coming from your food. If you have red meat, even if you have green vegetables, they're actually full of iron. And if that iron oxidizes, you'll start to get that build-up and hardening of the arteries, and wine is probably one of the best antioxidants there is, and it's enjoyable.
I'll tell you, you're a good salesman, because you've got me convinced. Well, actually, I didn't take much convincing. I love your wine.
Thank you.
It's very nice. Now, Australian wine is, obviously, it's your thing, yeah?
Yeah. Yeah, well, I've been involved in the wine business from Australia for about 20 years now, mainly exporting. It's a privilege to work in this industry because we make a product that we really can be proud of. Because Australia, we have such a wonderful climate, we have wonderful technology, and to be honest, it's very, very hard for us to make a bad wine because, you know, God has given us such a wonderful climate that our winemakers concentrate on making sure that we capture the fruit flavors and we keep the freshness. And one example of that now is that nearly all Australian wine is coming to you in screw caps.
Of course, yes.
Now a screw cap, it maybe doesn't have the romance and the ceremony of going through the extraction of the cork, but a screw cap is rather like a time lock. So once we've prepared the wine and got it in top condition, we put it in the bottle, we lock it in time. So we know that when you come to open that screw cap, you're going to get the benefit of all the aroma, all the fruit flavors preserved, and you're going to have a really enjoyable product at a very reasonable price.
I think you're right. I mean, attitudes have changed over the last few years, and there was a time where people wouldn't entertain a screw top. They would think it was a lower quality.
Yeah.
But there has been a shift in the mentality.
Yeah.
Now that's also can be said for Australian wines, because 20 years ago, or maybe
You're showing your age now, Paul.
that wasn't the case.
Yes.
Australian wines weren't held in such high esteem.
Absolutely.
And of course now we've got more New World wines. How does a company like yours, I don't mean survive, but how do you manage to take on? I mean, you're in good company.
Yeah. Yeah, well look, firstly, Australia still only accounts for about 5% of all the wine made in the world.
Really?
And Europe still accounts for over 40%. So although Australia has got fabulous publicity, a strong rate of growth, we still are relatively small. But we've made enormous impact amongst consumers because over the last 20 years, as you say, people have come to know that they can rely on Australian wine almost at any price point. It's not necessary to spend a lot of money to get a good bottle of wine. And we take a lot of pride in saying that our cheapest bottle of wine you will enjoy. It will be in top condition, top quality. And I'll give you one example. Sometimes I do wine talks in Europe.
Okay.
And I will say to wine aficionados, wine enthusiasts, has anyone got a European vintage card? And someone will say, yes, I've got a Bordeaux card. And someone else will say, I've got a Burgundy card. And I say, what's a good vintage? Oh, 2002 was really good, but, you know, maybe 99 wasn't that good. So my next question is, who's got an Australian vintage card? And it goes very quiet. No one? No, because you'll never need one. Because if we have a bad vintage, and occasionally we do, it's not released. So you will never need to have an Australian vintage card because the quality will always be reliable. Sometimes it'll be exceptionally good, but it will always be dependable and reliable and enjoyable. At the end of the day, wine is about enjoyment.
Well, indeed, and it's enjoyable to speak to you. The wine that we're drinking tonight, what is the age of it now?
These are all 2007 wines, so they're quite young. White wine particularly is really best drunk young and fresh when it's got all that aroma in. Although, as I say, a screw cap as a time lock means that you can keep it a little bit longer. Red wines, we make ours to be enjoyable and drinkable now. These are not designed to be put down for 10 or 20 years, but very few people do.
Sure.
Over 95% of all the wine in the world is actually drunk within 24 hours of being bought. So people want to know that when they buy it, that it's ready to drink now. And I think, again, this is where Australia has probably excelled because of that consistency of quality, the easy drinking style, the fruit-driven style. You can actually enjoy the flavour of the grapes. And of course, we tell people what the varieties are. So if somebody likes a Shiraz, they can be sure that any Australian Shiraz is going to be enjoyable and to their palate. If they like a Semillon, again, the same thing. So they don't have to worry about, you know, am I going to understand this wine? Once they've found a wine style that they like, they can be assured it's going to be consistently good. And if they want to try another style, the name of the variety is clearly shown and they can decide, is this a style they like or not. It's very easy to remember.
Well, it sounds like an education. And, you know, the man who would normally be doing this tonight is a guy called Dr. Ian. And I was thinking, I wondered if he would have challenged you with your ideas about the antioxidants and how good it is. But knowing him, I think he would have probably agreed with me.
I think he probably would. We have, well, in fact, the Australian wine industry was started basically by the medical profession. You've heard of Lindeman's wine, was started by Dr. Lindeman.
Sure.
And there were many other examples, and they did it. Why? In fact, you can go back even further. Go back to the Roman Empire. The Roman Empire could not expand without wine. Why? It was a tonic, it was a medicine, it was an antiseptic. I can't speak for that one, but it was certainly an antiseptic. And basically the Roman army marched on wine, which is probably why they gave up in England, because they couldn't grow it there because it was too cold. So wine has probably for 2,000 years been recognized to have beneficial qualities. We're just getting a little bit more scientific about it now, and I could start to talk about resveratrol, which is the actual element that you get from the skin of the grape, which has the antioxidant property. But
you're going to blind me with terminology.
I won't.
But whatever,
I won't do that.
It's starting to have a beneficial effect on me.
Good.
Graham, it's very nice to speak to you. Just lastly, this wines that we're sampling tonight, are they available here in Pattaya?
They will be very shortly. The purpose of this function tonight is to introduce them to the restaurant and hotel trade in Pattaya, and I certainly hope that you'll see Cranswick wines on wine lists very shortly.
Well, thanks so much, Graham. Thanks so much for speaking to us and
You're very welcome.
giving us your knowledge. Okay, that's us at Mantra. Hope you've enjoyed it. Cheers.
Cheers.